Welcome to the channel. This is Waga. We are going to talk a bit about property wrappers, in particular at state and at binding. We're going to look at them and how we can use them by making a mini project. And first things first, let's give ourselves a bit more real estate, like so. And we need to import an image because I'm going to showcase it with an image. For that, you come to assets.xcassets, and what you do when you get there is you drag the image. Just pick any image. I'm going to use an image of Lake Victoria that I've been using in several of my videos. And so, after we get that, we come back to the content Swift, like so. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to show the Lake Victoria, right? So we could come here, instead of having text, let's resume so that you can see it. And we could come here and we could just say, put a V stack, like so. That's a vertical stack. Stacks things vertically, and we're going to give it an initializer and spacing. I've covered this before, so I'll just go quickly. Spacing of 20 so that you can separate the various items in it. And in it, we're going to have an image, and the image, let's give ourselves a bit more real estate, and the image is going to be Victoria, or whatever image you use on your side. Just use any image. The image is not relevant to what we're doing. So when you put the image, of course, you're going to have it fill the entire screen. And I have created a video on images and the various options you have to resize them, but I'll be talking about them shortly and quickly, rather. So what we're going to do is first, we could come here and put a text at what we're doing. So the text, of course, it takes in a string, and it could be at state, like so, state, and we're going to make it, give it a font, modifier function, and this is going to be, you could put large title, right? It's at the top, so make it big when it's at the top. So we're going to put it at large title. In between, we're going to put a spacer, like so that it pushes it down. Of course, we still can't see anything because Victoria is grossly over it. The image is too big. So what we could do is we could add a few modifiers. One modifier we could look at is resizable. Resizable enables the changing of the scale of the image, right? We could just come here and say resizable, like so, and this will enable us to change the scale of the image, and we can see it better, right? Yeah, and we can also see our at state. And after that, we could also put an aspect ratio. We could put an aspect ratio, and the various options. There's fill, fit. We could say dot fill, like so, or we could say dot fit. I go into them in a bit more detail if you look at the video on the various if you look at the video on the various different images. On the image, you'll find more options. So you could put dot fit or dot fill. We're going to leave it as dot fill for ourselves, and after that we are going to have a frame. Let's just put in a frame, and the frame in question, we're going to enter the width. That's my Pomodoro timer. Give me a second, and let's just continue. Let's power through this instead of taking a break. Yeah, so we are going to have a frame, and the frame is going to have we could have decide how big it's going to be. Now, the interesting thing I'd like to show you is that if you put, or rather, when I was building it the first time, when I put in the height, like so, and the width, like so, okay, it's going to say argument, the width must precede the height. Argument width must precede the argument height, which seems odd, but yeah, this is the second time I'm encountering it. Anyway, we hit fix, so put the width before the height. So we're going to put it like that. We are going to say, and after that we're going to add the clipped, like so. Now the clipped cuts out areas of the modifier that exceeds the frame, right? So we're going to have like that. So you see the frame, and you see the areas of the modifier that exceed the frame. So we could just clip it like so. And for that, we type in the clipped. If you can look down here, this is on the canvas. You can see what the clipped does. Again, if you want to see it in more detail, look at the image photo. Yeah, so after that, we basically, that's how you put the image. But the image is not in question. What we want to do is we want to have a button that when we press, we see the image, and when we press it again, the image disappears, right? And for that, we would come here and now the first thing we would need to do is we would need to actually put a button, and for that first we could just put a button. Let's just put a button. Best scene. So we could come here at the end of this and we could say button, and the button is going to be like so, and the text in it is going to be, we're going to have a text in it, and it's going to be Victoria. Yeah, okay, we're going to put that button, and it of course needs an action, and the action, let's just put nothing in the action at first, that we're going to explain a bit. Like so. So we have Victoria, right? And like so, let's put a space at the bottom so that it goes up a bit. Like so. Let's put it, so we have it at the center. Okay, yes. Now this is a lot better. So we have the spacer and the button, and we have a button here, right? We could make it live by hitting this plus sign. Let's make it a bit smaller. We make it live by hitting this that play button, like so, and we have the button. It does nothing right now. So we need an icon that basically rebuilds the view whenever the button is toggled, right? So basically that's what is going to happen. When you use a state variable, you can rebuild the view whenever the rule is met, or the user interaction usually deals a lot with the user interaction. So for example, we want that whenever we press Victoria, the image disappears or reappears, right? So for that, we could create a variable, and you create that variable, this flag that will decide whether to show or not show a video. And for that, you use the @state, like so. And usually, you can make it a private variable. This is just basic Swift. Private variable. And you always put it in within the content, within the view, but not in the body view, right? Like so, we could call it show lake. And initially, we could set it to, and remember this is Swift, so you have to put a space between that and the equal sign, and this is going to be false, right? So it starts off as false, right? And after that, what we could do is we want to ensure that whenever the button is pressed, the state changes and the button rebuilds. Basically, this is the same as set state if you're coming from Flutter or states, right? In React, if you're coming from those frameworks. So that's one way you could understand it. And for us to connect it, to hook it up, we could just come here and we say, we refer to the self, we refer to the struct, and we say dot show lake, and we are going to pass in the toggle function, the toggle method, right? So we're going to pass in the toggle method. So this one can be toggled to whether it's true or false, right? When you press the button, this becomes true or false, right? And how we would make the image disappear is by putting using an if statement. We could say if show lake. This is a boolean, right? And let's cover the image, right? So we come here and we get the image and we put it in that if show lake is true, we get it. So when we start off, the show lake is false, and you see it's alive. We're seeing a live preview, right? And so when we hit Victoria, we should see it. And we hit Victoria again, it disappears. Hit Victoria, you see it. Now you see it, now you don't. Now you see it, now you don't. Okay, now that is all about state. So basically, that's what our state does. Now, what we could do is that we could create another view. We could create another view that would control, maybe have access to this variable, right? And for that, we need a binding. For example, we want to extract this button into its own subview and put it in another struct. And this struct will enable us will have all the logic for clicking and for making the lake appear and disappear. So how would you do that, right? You would come here and there's a method. I think it's also available in Flutter. Okay, I'm comparing everything to Flutter because I came from working with Flutter. Then I taught myself to Swift. And we come here and we could hit that, and we could come among these things. We could say extract method, where is it? Extract subview, like so. So when you hit this, we see this extracted view and this extracted view here. And what we could call this, let's call this view Victoria, right? After the lake. So we have this view called Victoria, and it's complaining because it doesn't have a binding. And for that, we would need a variable, a flag that can be turned on here that will affect this. So for that, we would have we would come here and create the flag, the actual flag that we're talking about, that I've been talking about. We could say at binding, which will bind this and this at the top, right? At binding, and we could say var show. We can also call it show lake, although you could call it something else as long as it's the same down here, right? So we could say show lake. It takes in the show lake, and the show lake, of course, has to be a boolean, like so, right? So we have the show lake here, and just to make it seem different, we could call this show lakes, like so, and show lakes, so that you don't think you have to use the same, that the state variable and the binding variable have to be the same. So what we're going to do here is next we're going to pass in the various what it requires, right? It's this view will require the show lakes. It requires a variable for show lakes. So you could pass the show lakes, and the flag here in this content view is show lake, right? Show lake, like so. We could call this let's call this show Victoria so that it's more differentiated, right? Show Victoria, and we're going to have to change this here. We will say show Victoria, like so, and this is going to be show Victoria. Victoria is the second largest lake in the world after Lake Superior, I believe, in the United States, right? It's in several Eastern African countries, including Kenya, where I am, and Uganda and Tanzania. Yeah, so basically it's the source of the Nile, right? Okay, if you don't know much about Lake Victoria, but anyway, that's enough of a geography lesson. Let's go back, and why is it complaining? Convert value show lake into, wait, cannot oh yeah, it's complaining. The answer is simple. It's because we need to put a $sign, right? For the binding to complete, yes. You see, you remove the bind. I was wondering what the problem is, right? It says cannot convert value show lake to bool type insert s. Yes, so you need to put the $sign. So I had forgotten to put the $sign. So you put the $sign so that the binding, so it can complete the binding. And now everything is as it should be. So you could hit this and you see Victoria. You hit it, it disappears. Hit it again, it appears. Hit it, it disappears. So basically that's what you do. A binding, you can access it from a sub view or another view, and a state variable makes the view rebuild every time the state variable changes, right? Every time when we click this becomes true and we see it, and so this rebuilds, right? So basically that is all about at state and at binding. Pretty simple, right? Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment if you have a question, and I'll see you in the next video.